welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is MongoSlade, and we're going to talk about the Raja Jackson Psycho Stu situation that happened on August 23rd out in California at the Knox Pro Wrestling show. Alright, so a little bit of a background for people who don't know, but Quentin Rampage Jackson is a Hall of Fame mixed martial artist. He fought in Pride, he fought in UFC, he's a former champion, and Raja Jackson is one of his sons. Raja is 25 and is a trained MMA fighter, but he is still pretty much an amateur. He's only had one legitimate fight, which he lost, and this was 2 years ago. So, since Rampage retired, which I believe was in 2018 or 2019, him and his son have been doing live streaming on Kick. So there's plenty of footage of them two messing with each other. Well, Rampage messing with him. And on this particular night, Rampage goes to do a live stream with, I believe, Sneeko, while Raja goes to a pro wrestling show with his trainer. They go to the show. Raja is mistaken for one of the boys, and they run into a guy named Stuart Smith, whose name is Psycho Stu. He's a pro wrestler. He is a veteran. According to Miro, he's been in the business for 15 years. He started training in 2009. So Psycho Stu, he thinks that Raja is one of the boys. So he kind of does a spot with him, which is the beer can spot. He takes a beer can, he kind of crushes it against Raja's head. And this is all live streamed. And you can hear people in the background saying, well, you're not going to sell it? Because they think Raja is working. But Raja's not working. He doesn't know what's going on. He gets mad about this. Find out, of course, for starters, the beer can was a work. It didn't really smash him in the head with a beer can. It didn't really happen that way. But afterwards, after Stu is smartened up and told this guy is not one of the boys, Stu apologizes to him. He apologizes to him 3 times backstage. This is all on video. Raja shakes Stu's hand twice, telling him, oh, it was all right. He was just kind of fuming because he didn't know what was going on, but now he knows what's going on. Everything's cool. Everything's, solid. Then it is brought up by, I'm not sure exactly who, that Raja is going to get to be a part of the show. Now that he's been on the show because they did the old beer can spot, they want to give Raja something because his ego was bruised. So he goes backstage. There's a indie wrestler by the name of AJ Mana who works at Knox Pro, and he tells Raja to give him a receipt, give Stu a receipt. He doesn't explain to him what a receipt is. Again, Raja is not a pro wrestler. He does not know what these words mean. So AJ Mana, he gets Raja all worked up. They send him back to the crowd. Raja is sitting in the crowd and he's talking to his chat, I believe, on his live stream. And he doesn't know what he wants to do to Stu when he gets his spot in the ring. He doesn't know. Now, he knows he's going to have a spot in the ring. He knows he's going to have a spot in the match. He's told he can hit Stu. Now, we don't know. Now, we saw AJ Mana say, do your thing. If somebody gives you shit, I'll back you up on this. We'll talk about that later, okay? When he gets out into the crowd, Raja is telling his chat that he's going to hit Stu for real. He doesn't know how long they're going to let this happen, but he's going to hit Stu for real. When the spot comes up, Raja jumps in the ring, just as planned. He's supposed to double leg Stu and take him down. Instead, he picks Stu up. Now, obviously, Stu is a big guy. He probably knew this was coming, but he was completely unprepared for the fall. Raja slams Stu, knocks him out on the slam, because Stu's body goes limp. Raja then climbs up and starts unfurling damn near 24 shoot punches to the face. The referees don't do anything. The other wrestlers barely do anything. After about, 10, 15 seconds of some of the most vicious hooks to this guy's unprotected head, wrestlers start to grab on Raja and pull him off. From there, Raja is taken to the back. He's yelling at the wrestlers. He's yelling at the people on cameras. He's saying he's tired of being bullied. He doesn't give a fuck if these guys try to jump him. He doesn't care about anything. At this point, Rampage Jackson is on kick with Sneeko, and he finds out what's happening. Okay? He's reading about what his son has done at the pro wrestling show. Now, Rampage, at this point, he gets a little anxious. He gets a little nervous, and he's like, oh my God, hopefully it's just hardcore wrestling. Because sometimes these guys like to do this hardcore stuff, which is natural for him to think. Later on, Rampage is told the story, and he's sitting in his car, and he does a video in which he calls a Psycho Stu dumb. Say, this dumb motherfucker who hit my son in the head with a beer can. My son is not a wrestler. Okay? Now, Rampage is angry. At this point, as we sit right now, Raja has not been arrested. And Stu is still in the hospital. So that's where we sit. That's the bare bones fact of the case. Now we get to my analysis of the situation, which I'm going to look at this, obviously, from all the players involved. Let's talk about Nox Pro first. They're a part of the WWE ID program, and they've been a part of it since October of 2024, when the whole damn thing was announced. It's owned by Rikishi, but Rikishi was not present for this situation, and therefore I think one of the co-owners was there, and a couple of the other boys were there. This organization put an untrained man in the ring. For starters, before we even talk about that, they allowed Stu to approach who he thought was one of the boys. Nobody smartened him up and said, he's not one of the boys, go to somebody else. They let him approach somebody in the crowd that they didn't know and do a spot with them without knowing what the outcome could be. That's already reckless and irresponsible. And then, as a make good for this whole thing, they allow an untrained man to get in the ring. And then, furthermore, one of the guys has said, I'm going to back you up on this. If something happens, they're going to have to deal with me. He's talking about the other wrestlers. For starters, what happened with Raja is not that bad. You could have bought the fucking guy a beer and called it a day. He didn't need to get back in the ring and give a receipt. He didn't get hit in the head with a beer can. If that would have occurred, then they would have fought right then and there. Right? This did not need to be elevated to, now he needs to be part of the show. You could have just ignored it. You could have just said, hey man, I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. Shake his hand. I'll buy you a beer later. We'll give you free tickets. If we got merchandise, you can have some, whatever. Call it a day. To take it to this level shows a level of unprofessionalism and irresponsibility that WWE is now tangentially associated with. They need to rethink their attachment to Nox Pro Academy. There's got to be some heads got to roll for this. There has to be quite a few people fired behind this. Not just AJ Mana. AJ Mana should be blackballed from the business. How could he basically line up one of the guys he shares a locker room with? Now, I'm going to try to give him some grace. He probably didn't know that Raja was going to go in there and act like a goddamn Rottweiler. Nobody did. People thought, hey, the guy's fine. I get that. But for you basically to give him the okay, at least in his mind, to throw at least one shoot punch is bullshit. You can't line people up like this. It can't be You need to have some camaraderie in the locker room. There needs to be some level of brotherhood in the locker room. That guy should not be in anybody's locker room anywhere. He's just too reckless. He's too irresponsible. All right. I don't know if he's one of the bosses there. I don't know what his role is there. That'll all come out in due time. As of right now, however, he's just a wrestler and he should be done. For period. Now, as far as Stu, well, Stu should not be approaching people he doesn't know to do spots with. If you don't recognize the guy, you shouldn't do a spot with them. Now, I think Stu did the right thing. Once he realized he made a mistake, he apologized like a man. You know, Stu's been around for a long time, apparently. They say 15 years or so. He knows when he screwed up. He did the right thing by offering to shake the guy's hand. He did the right thing by actually assisting Raja and picking him up. You know that he had to help him. Look at the size of Stu. Okay? But he allowed himself to be too vulnerable with a person he did not know. He also should not have been in this situation. The company should not have been in this situation. They should not have put Raja in this situation. And Stu should not have agreed to it. Now, they agreed to something, apparently, because Stu was involved. But you don't get involved with people who are not trained. That's reckless. You can't do that. Again, nobody knows that Raja is going to get in there and act like a dire wolf. Nobody knows that. But you still don't put yourself in that situation. Now we talk about Rampage Jackson, who's clearly more concerned about his son than about the wrestler. For obvious reasons, it's his son, and this is a very serious situation. But if for those of you who are not familiar with Rampage Jackson, somebody said that he's like the UFC's version of Shaq, which is true. He's a big dude. He's always picking with people. He's kind of a bully, but he's kind of a generally funny guy. Rampage likes to have fun. If you've seen him interact with his son, with one of his sons, you know, Raja, he's kind of a dick to him. And this is where things kind of go and veer off a little bit, because some of the jokes that Rampage has said to him, he might not mean them in a mean, demeaning, condescending way. But when Raja says he's tired of people picking on him and tired of people bullying him, that has nothing to do with Stu. Okay? A lot of that likely has to do with Rampage. There's lots of videos of Rampage making fun of him for being lazy. There's one video where Raja is just standing around waiting for his trainer. And Rampage gets on his case like, what the hell are you doing? Go do something. Go jump rope. Go hit the bags. Go do something, bitch. He's calling them bitches and, you know, pushing them, hitting them in the nuts and all kinds of stuff in various different videos. That stuff kind of adds up. Yes, it could be funny. That's how Rampage jokes and laughs, but you never know what you're instilling in people or how you making them feel. Because again, they're on live stream doing all this stuff. So Rampage is constantly kind of punking him, especially about being a vegan and all that sort of stuff, right? So we don't know. And then you got Raja. You know, a very unfortunate case that because he was incapable of maintaining and controlling his own behavior, poor impulse control, poor discipline, unable to regulate his own emotions. The fact that he held a grudge over a fake beer can shows me that he has almost no emotional regulation. Now, it wasn't an outburst, right? If it was an outburst, they would have fought right then and there when it occurred. He'd got mad and he just started throwing hands. He plotted on Stu. He sat in the crowd and told his chat that he was going to shoot on Stu. This guy who he had just shook hands with and just this is a cowardly move. This is not manly. I don't care if he wanted to fight Stu, he could have just fought him. You don't let the guy get his guard down and then you jump him. That's bullshit. All right? You stood there face to face with them on multiple occasions. They were face to face twice. If you was mad, you could have slapped them backstage. If you was mad, you should have fought him when he offered his hand. No, get up. We got to throw hands behind this. If that's what you wanted to do, why did you wait until he was unconscious to throw all these punches? Now here's the thing. People say, well, he's not a pro wrestler. What Raja did is unconscionable even in MMA. In MMA, if you'd have threw all those punches at somebody who was not blocking, in boxing, if you'd have did the same thing, they'd have thought you was fucking out of your mind. Are you trying to kill this man? And this is where all the people who are running around saying this is attempted murder. Because a lot of people thought Stu was dead. As far as we know, Stu is not dead. All right? A lot of people running around saying that this is attempted murder. This is premeditated murder. If Stu were to die, you could argue that it was premeditated because him and Stu agreed to work together before Raja decided to backstab him. Clearly, there's something wrong with this kid. There's something deeply wrong with him. And a lot of it, I'm sure, has something to do with Rampage. All right? I don't want to diagnose people, but I see that there's something. He's 25 years old. He's only had one MMA fight. We're going to get into what Rampage put out on Twitter. We're going to get into what Nox Pro put out on Twitter in a second. But from what we know right now, he's not a very good MMA fighter. He's not, a big promising fighter. There have been guys who have gotten in the cage. To start fighting at 25 it's a little weird, I looked it up, and they say the average age of a UFC guy is 27. But Dana White wants these guys to get some experience first. And Raja has not fought in 2 years. So how much experience does he really have as an MMA fighter? Is he actually ever going to make it? And the answer to that is likely no. Now people want him arrested. They want him in prison. Now, he certainly needs to go to jail. For how long, I don't know. Let's figure out how bad Stu is down first before we make that decision. But if Stu were to pass away, this is obviously manslaughter at the very least. Murder 2. Because he planned to do this. And it's on video. All right? It's not like it was an accident. And that's my problem with Rampage's statement. So Rampage puts out on Twitter. He says, quote, I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raja. I've been confirmed that the wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu, is awake and stable. Raja was unexpectedly hit in the side of the head by him moments before Smith's match. Raja was told that he could get his payback in the ring. I thought it was part of the show. It was bad judgment and a work that went wrong. Raja is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business involved in an event like this. I don't condone my son's actions at all. He suffered a concussion from sparring only days ago and had no business doing anything remotely close to physical contact. As a father, I'm deeply concerned with his health and the well-being of Mr. Smith. That being said, I'm very upset that any of this happened, but my main concern now is that Mr. Smith will make a speedy recovery. I apologize on his behalf and to Kick for the situation. It's a perfectly fine statement if you just put it out there. The issue is that Rampage frames this thing as a work that went wrong. That is not the case. This was a premeditated attack by his son on this man. They were not working. Stu thought they were going to work. But Raja knew he was not going to work with Stu. When he did that slam on Stu and knocked him out, that should have been enough. And that alone should have proven to anybody paying attention, this guy does not know how to do anything. You should not have let him touch anybody. So Rampage is 100% right in saying my son is an MMA fighter. I mean, he's barely an MMA fighter. He's only had one fight, but that's one fight more than 99% of the people listening to this video, and more than one fight that I've had. But I wouldn't act like, this guy has a ton of MMA fights under his belt. He's had one, and he lost it. All right? We need to look at this situation as there's something wrong with Raja. Clearly, there's something wrong with him. Where he went in there and acted like a vicious fucking animal. So Knox Pro made a statement. And it says, quote, "First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with our brother, Mr. Stuart Smith, Psycho Stu, as he remains a priority and we are monitoring his well-being. What was supposed to be a planned and agreed upon wrestling spot turned into a selfish, irresponsible act of violence against Mr. Smith. This egregious act is reprehensible and never should have occurred. In the 17 years of operation of Knox Pro Wrestling Academy, there has never been anything as heinous take place such as this, and we apologize to our patrons and fans." Decent statement, but it should have been a call for a criminal investigation. Now, the reason why I truly believe that Raja has not been arrested time of recording is because AJ Mena told him to do it. That's why I believe he's not been arrested. Because if he was told, go in there and take a shot, and was not told, hey man, pull the punch, maybe hit him once, or whatever the case may be, he wasn't told any of that. We saw the video. The guy said, go in there and do your thing. Give him a receipt. You know what that is, right? And I got your back. If anybody says or done anything, I got your back. In other words, this guy, AJ Mena, gave Raja the green light to go in there and act like a fucking wolf. That's why I think Raja is not in prison right now. Why he hasn't been arrested right now. But Raja is a grown man. 25 years old, he knows better. But there was another video that was put out there. It was one of Rampage's videos. And this is what I mean by sometimes you're joking, but the thing that you're joking about can be quite serious. So Rampage is sitting in a chair and he's talking about putting away money for his 2 Japanese sons. He put money away for them to go to college. But for his 2 American sons, he put aside bail money. Of course, Raja is one of his American sons because he knows they're not going to college. And it was said kind of like he's joking. But apparently he knows something we don't know. And it's a very interesting situation that we got with Rampage and his son. I think there's just some unresolved issues there. I think that when your dad is somebody like Rampage Jackson, he can emasculate you, even if he's not trying to. And if you're a young man and you're in his shadow, maybe you even look up to him and you feel that he don't respect you. He's constantly calling you a bitch, putting his hands on you, pushing you around, that kind of stuff. I can see why that might build up some kind of resentment. And Stu is just a target of that resentment. And the unfortunate thing is that happens a lot in our world. People will misdirect their anger, misdirect their frustrations. They're mad at somebody else, but they can't beat them. They can't whoop them. So they'll find a soft target. People do this literally all the time. They'll go to work, get extremely frustrated about their boss. They can't beat up the boss, can't kill the boss. They'll go home and give their wife grief. Go home, give the children grief. Right? Single mothers get mad at the baby daddy, take it out on the kids. This kind of stuff happens literally all the time. And these emasculated young people who feel like the only way for them to get respect is to viciously attack people. That's a problem in our society in general. because we have young boys killing each other over he dissed me, he disrespected me. I'm not gonna let him diss me because this is all they got. There's a video where Raja is sitting in the car talking about how broke he is, and I saw some people making this comment on social media that he grew up rich because his daddy's a famous MMA fighter. And he's put out this video. He was talking about like, that's my dad's money. That ain't my money. He grew up. He has money. He's rich. I'm not rich. I'm broke. You know? And he was talking about how stressed out he was about all of that. And I'm not saying any of this stuff to be sympathetic. I'm just giving you a full view of what kind of person this man is. Because the first time you ever see him, he's doing some violent shit like this. But there's a backstory to all that. He should still go to prison. Absolutely. But there's a reason he got set off to do something like this. There's a reason why he had difficulty regulating his emotions. Why he couldn't stop punching as soon as he started. There was something in him. A rage. It wasn't just that, his chimp brain flipped on and all of a sudden, ooh, ah, 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 ah. It wasn't like that. Clearly there was something else there. There's something deeply rooted in him. He probably needs to see a psychiatrist, but he needs to be a jail psychiatrist. He cannot be amongst us. Nobody who shakes a man's hand and then jumps him from behind is a good person. Now, this was all live streamed, as I mentioned at the very beginning. So there's a police investigation currently ongoing. No doubt there'll likely be charges and there'll be an arrest and all this sorts of stuff. Unless Stu wakes up and decides he's not going to press charges. Which, he might not. We don't know yet. We don't know what kind of guy Stu is. But prayers up to Stu. This is a terrible situation. It gives pro wrestling a bad name. It makes MMA look bad too. Because nothing is worse than an MMA fighter who jumps on a guy who doesn't know how to fight MMA. It's the same thing with boxers. Sometimes these guys, they learn skills and they want to show them off. But in my opinion, it's something deeply rooted there with Raja. But again, prayers up to Stu. We hope everything turns out great. I think WWE needs to tighten up their WWE ID program, especially when it comes to Knox Wrestling. I don't think it should they should end the program or whatever. I don't even think they should cut ties completely with Knox Pro, but they certainly need to tighten up. And there needs to be like some really strict guidelines about what these indies can do, because the shit indies are shit indies. Whether they're owned by WWE Hall of Famers or not. They're garbage promotions. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.